Piper Fleck Blomqvist. I'm a Scandinavian folk artist specializing in Swedish dalmålning, which is also called Kurbits painting, and Swedish bonadsmålning. Dalmålning. What is dalmålning? Målning is the Swedish word for painting. Just like rosmaling in Norwegian is rose painting. Måling or måler is Swedish word for paint or painting. Dalmålning is folk art from Sweden that refers to the very big wall paintings, like painted wallpaper, that was done in Dalarna, Sweden, specifically 1773 up until maybe the mid-1800s. Bonadsmålning describes the painting that was done roughly the same time period, although it started earlier and went on longer. It's a similar type of wall painting that was done in the southern part of Sweden, and the word bonad is tapestry. This was also a time in the 18th century and 19th century of the church having kind of a lot of presence in the lives of people. And this is how those two painting styles are similar. The painters, both in southern Sweden, bonadsmålers, and the dalmålers up in Dalarna, they had a Bible that had pictures of different stories, Old and New Testaments. They would use those pictures and paint those on the walls. So in northern Sweden, or the Dalarna painting, there was always this big Kurbits flower, and it is Swedish for gourd, and it first appeared in one of the Swedish language Bibles. In southern Sweden, the bonadsmålers, they used those same stories, but that big Kurbits flower is not present. They told them not in one giant picture, but almost like a comic strip, scene after scene after scene. And it could be either left to right or right to left, depending on where the head of house was going to be seated. I've dived quite heavily into the history of this particular art form in Sweden and how it evolved and why it's so unique to these two areas of Sweden. And here's another thing. Why am I interested in this? The chemistry of pigments and the history of pigment use is fascinating to me. And these artists had access to a lot of interesting pigments. A lot of them, they made their own paints. I can make my own paints. I know how. I'm much more comfortable using acrylic paint. When I paint, I try to be faithful to the way they did it originally sometimes, not all the time. I just can't go too far. There's a point where if you go too far, then suddenly you're not following this anymore. Then you're not part of this tradition anymore. One of my favorite paintings that I've done that I had in my mind for many years has been brewing in the back of my head, always there, how am I going to do this? I wanted to do a piece on my hometown, a very small town in Minnesota, population 44. A lot of the things that we did in that town are universal truths for other people who have lived in small towns in rural upper Midwest. One of the things that the bonadsmålers and the dalmålers both did was there was script across the top describing the story, and sometimes there was script in the painting itself. So if there was an activity happening down in one corner, the artist might put a couple of words above that activity describing it. And my dad owned one of the two bars, and one of the things he and many of the bar owners in our area had was this Hamm's beer sign above the cash register that was moving. And all of us loved to watch that moving beer sign. It was mesmerizing as a child, and it's still mesmerizing to this day in my mind. So I had to include that little tiny picture of the Hamm's beer sign above my dad's bar. But you wouldn't notice it if it weren't for the fact that I ended the script with, "Oh, how I wanted to live in that enchanted little tent." I'm not a production artist. That being said, if I've already gone through that process and have come up with something and sketched it, I can repeat that over and over and over again. That's what the old painters did. They had their pre-designed, preconceived ideas. Here you go, farm wife, pick out which one you want. That one, got it. I'll work on that right now. And I don't know that there was a lot of thought process. For me, there is definitely, and my best work is work that I do for me, because when I paint, honestly, it's coming from here. It's me having to come out.
Funded by the North Dakota Council on the Arts and by the members of Prairie Public.